Hi, Tim. Welcome to BizTalk. It's my great pleasure having you. How
Hi,
are you?
Max. Thank you very much for inviting us. Really looking forward to the session.
The pleasure is mine, and thanks for coming. So let's start to introduce yourself.
My name's Tim Sanford, and I'm the chief executive of a company called NU Unlimited. And we are just in the final stages of launching a product called Menu, which is, well, it's the first of its kind, but it certainly won't be the last of its kind food data ecosystem. My background is 25 plus years in technology after I left the Royal Navy way back when. And I've been responsible for some notable turnarounds. I've been responsible for some launches and some spin-outs and growing a lot of businesses. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. And particularly this project around Menu, which is all about transparency around food and sustainability and things that are all very timely and actually very important to the vast majority of us.
Thank you. So let's start talking about Menu. I'm curious.
Okay. Menu is a very simple exercise. For us, it's about food. We are entirely about the story of the food. And this came about because we started, a lot of people want to know where their food comes from. It's now an overwhelming need for a lot of people, partly for health and partly for reasons of wanting to know that the food they're eating is actually good for themselves and the planet. People want to know. And when you start looking, it becomes quite clear that it's, unless you actually know the farmer who produces the food and grows the food, it's very difficult to find out where the food comes from and the story behind it. And we originally started off as a traceability platform way back in 2017, and we were working with all sorts of interesting people from scooter manufacturers through to chemicals and pharma. And the further we got into it, the more we became passionate about the food side of it and what food means to people and how opaque the world of food is. So we built Menu, and our purpose is very simple. It's just to make it all about the food and connect everyone to the truth of the food on their plate at home, in restaurants, and in store. So anywhere you are, you can find out about the food that you're either thinking about buying or that's on your plate. And for most of us, that's just fine. It's great. It's something we want to do. But for some people with medical conditions or allergens or very strong convictions, they have to, or it could be a risk to their life. So that's our purpose, to connect everyone to the story of the food on their plate. So why now? Well, as I said, people want to know or have full food transparency. These are all 2022 figures. So even although we've come out of COVID, we're in the middle of a war between Ukraine and Russia, 85% of consumers want or demand full food transparency. They really want to know where their food's coming from. 64% of consumers are actively prioritizing products that are more transparent, so more than just a little bit of nutritional information. Most consumers struggle to understand what food labels actually mean, and only 20% of consumers trust food labels and the information that's provided on them. So that's the why now for us. The difference between us and pretty much every other food platform that's out there is that it's about the food. So rather than being about selling you something or getting you to buy something or selling you something, we're about the food. So right at the middle of Menu is the most accurate and complete record of food anywhere. It's dynamic. And it builds so that as the farmer produces food and it then moves on to its next stage to be processed, and then it moves on to its next stage to be manufactured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Normally, data gets lost. So by the time normally you would get the food on your plate, there's only 10% of the information that people want is there. With Menu, 100% of it's there all the time, and the food is the information is dynamic, so it builds as the stuff goes through. And we've built in interesting things like automatic allergy allocations, automatic nutritional calculations. So this is a very big, powerful system that saves people a lot of time, a lot of money, and it delivers us consumers and a growing number of businesses the 100% transparency that we want. It's dynamic as well. So as things change, it changes with it. And one of the things that is a real pain for a lot of people is that as ingredients change, they have to go through a whole length and complex process. We manage the whole thing dynamically. So a lot of the time in restaurants, there's a thing at the moment called the bullwhip supply chain, where the ingredient A that you were using yesterday is suddenly not available anymore, and you have to use ingredient B. And that could mean you have to change everything in your menu. So vegetable bouillon, which we've all now sadly become experts in New Unlimited. Some vegetable bouillons don't contain celery, others do. And they quite often are used in a lot of dishes across a menu. And as a result, if you change from vegetable bouillon A without celery to vegetable bouillon B with celery, because you don't have a choice, you would have to change the cautions across your entire menu. With our product, you can do it at the flick of a switch and it's done automatically. And the whole menu and every iteration of that menu is automatically changed and updated. So it's very dynamic. It's very, and it saves a lot of effort and energy and cost and hassle, and it removes risk from the average business. Everything that's happened up till now in the food technology industry has been about selling you things. Point of sale system, a takeaway and or home delivery system, table reservations, order and pay from table. They're all about the selling you a little bit of food. They don't talk about the food itself. If you spend any time looking at any of these things, the amount of depth and detail they have is practically nothing. They're kind of puddle deep, as it were. With menu, it's all much, much deeper. It's all much, much more rich. And so long as we've got the basic information, we can derive the rest from, or certainly enough to make it a much, much more powerful experience for the average consumer. We have two primary routes to market, and the two primary routes to market that we have are there because the market's told us they want this. And again, menu sits right in the middle, the complete and accurate record of the dish. The supply chain side, the producers, the processors, the manufacturers, and the retailers, they want this because they want to increase their routes to market. They want to cut down on the costs of compliance. They want to increase their profitability. And these tend to be producers that have got a really, really strong story that they're not able to tell at the moment. On the other side, the restaurants, takeaways, home delivery, all those guys, they too want to be able to defend their price. They tend to be the businesses that are the local restaurant, the gastropub, those kind of guys where they want to talk about the quality of the produce they're using, and they want to talk about the producers they buy from. The way that menu pulls all that together means that if you're sitting in a restaurant looking at the menu and they talk about the quality of the steak, well, actually, you can drill all the way back through that to the farmer and see how he produces the meat that he's selling on. So our business model is very simple: software as a service, and a centralized system for managing all the data. It's the most sensible way of doing it. It works, and we're very happy with it. And then finally, I want to talk about our landmark year, which is 2022. This looks a bit messy, but there are two very important things in here. The compliance market, so that's the insurance market and some of the food compliance businesses that exist across the UK and the USA, have become very, very interested in what we do because it helps them manage risk out of the hospitality businesses that they work with. So things like Natasha's Law, which is a big deal in the UK, and also the forthcoming nutrition law, we automatically remove those issues for those businesses. So we are considered to be a very powerful advocate and a very powerful tool to help insurers manage risk out of the hospitality sector. And Customer One, which is Taste of the West, a big trade body which has over 1,500 members, we'll be working with them over this year to build a complete farm to fork food data ecosystem for their members. So that's for the southwest of England, which literally maps from the farm all the way through the various stages to the consumer, whether they're buying it from a shop or sitting in a pub. We are absolutely in the right place at the right time. We are growing faster than I had hoped, and certainly we'll be, by the end of this year, we'll have grown faster than our plan says. And in order to get to the end of stage one, we're raising £350,000 which is predominantly people and marketing, so that we can grow the business faster. And that's us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. You're right. It's very exciting now, do something similar, because there's so much attention paid of what we are eating, also to the environment, and because food and consumption food makes a lot of pollution as well today.
Yep.
So you're right. This is the only way we should go, and I suppose we are going there. Now, my first question is, if you want to stop sharing, we can have some more discussion about.
Okay.
My first question is very simple. How do you trace back to the origin of the food?
So this is one of those ones where we think there are three target companies in our world. The ones with short supply chains, so those will tend to be the small organic producers, the guys you see in farm shops, where the supply chain is relatively short, and it's actually very easy to go and speak to the farmer who makes the product and probably butchers it or processes it on site. So short supply chains tend to work, and they tend to be the ones where there is the greatest level of awareness in this. The second group that is interesting to us is the higher end product, the sort of, let's call them the luxury food market, where the quality of the ingredient tends to be as important as the finished product itself. So they tend to have invested in having a greater degree of traceability than a lot of other businesses. And they're interested in using the value of that traceability and the value of that story to enhance the value of the product. The third group is some of the larger food brands and food businesses have already started investing in audits of their supply chains, partially because there's a legal requirement in some areas, and partially because consumers want it. Typically, the problem with all of those three groups is that their audit trails tend to be static. So they do them once and they repeat it over every 6 months or every X period of time, and they can't. And as a result, they're not dynamic. With ours, because it's dynamic, there are quite big advantages to them. And certainly for the smaller producers, all of the work that we do around the compliance work, which we automate for them, there's a huge advantage in them working with us because we save them a fortune, to be blunt, as well as giving them all the other stuff. So I would say that building traceability, full transparency is a process, and it's a process that will take time. And the more that consumers want it, and the more that brands and producers can see that they can deliver it through a platform like ours, the more they're likely to invest in it. So we think that legislation, whilst it's our friend to a degree, is not really where our effort and energy lies. Our effort and energy lies in satisfying consumer demand, because they are the change agent.
What about the consumer? The one is going to go to the restaurant, the pub, and consuming the meal. The point is, for example, if I'm going to eat and I want to know where this food is coming from, the origination of the food can be done digitally somehow.
Yep.
Can be done on paper. Now, many of these very high-rated restaurants, they don't use technology at all. They can't find technology fashionable. How do you do that?
So we've approached that two ways. I completely agree with you, because actually a large part of going to a restaurant, for example, is actually the experience of sitting, engaging with a waiter or a waitress, asking the questions, getting the answers. So the hospitality version of menu exists across a number of dimensions. So there is an order and pay from table version where people can sit and browse the menu, typically before they go to the restaurant. I find myself doing that all the time now, and they might want to explore the story on their phones or their tablets or whatever via the menu before they go. If they don't do that and they want to ask the questions directly of the waiter or the waitress, there's a version of the platform is available for wait staff, which has all that information in it and allows them to allows you or I as a guest in a restaurant to ask the questions, make known our preferences about whether we have allergies, have the dishes personalized to us, and all of that's done within the platform that's in the hand of the waiter or waitress. So it very slightly changes the experience of the guest, in that you're asking some questions and the answers are coming out of a tablet as opposed to just the mouth of the person. But fundamentally, if you're running short-staffed, rather than the waiter or the waitress running backwards and forwards to the kitchen to ask the chef, the fact that it's delivered there and then on the spot, and it's something that you can trust because you can dig all the way down, it improves the customer experience. And certainly all the experience we've got so far is that doing it this way will save around 20% of the average front of house shift in time. And that's 20% more time spent looking after customers and making sure that they're having a good time, as opposed to running backwards and forwards to the kitchen. It also decreases the number of errors in the dishes being served, because the orders are taken through the tablet, and that means that you're getting much higher levels of accuracy. And the biggest thing we did was we spent a long time working with wait staff to make sure that it was easy to use, because a lot of these things aren't. So all of the information is there all of the time, regardless of how you're getting it and what questions you're asking.
So waiters, they have the proper tablet they can use to get information.
Yep.
So what's your opinion? Is coming the day when we have a waiter like a sommelier?
Some places will always revert back to pen and paper because that's just how they like to be. However, with the staffing issues and particularly front of house short staffing issues, I think the days of lots and lots of waiters and waitresses operating in a restaurant with very little technology are long gone, because I just don't. I think it's just not going to happen again, and certainly not in the UK and probably not in the US. So the ability to have really well-trained users of technology, so the technology is the expert. And that means that you're controlling the quality of information that actually gets to you or me, the diner or the guest, and you're guaranteeing a quality of service that actually would be very difficult to do just now, unless, of course, you're Raymond Blanc, in which case you probably can control the quality of your service very highly.
So who are your clients?
We've got a small group of restaurants that we've been working with all the way through lockdown and out the other side, and that's a growing group. We've just started work with another one down in the far southwest that we're working with. So they tend to be independent at this moment in time. They tend to be focused on local quality, sustainable produce. They tend to want to have a much closer relationship with their customers than the average big chain necessarily would, and that tends to be our average hospitality guest at this point in time. At the producer side, we've got small national players like Graham's Family Dairy in Scotland that we're doing some work with, all the way down to some guys that I met in Leith Market on Saturday who produce an amazing set of products that they literally make on their kitchen table and sell through the market. All of these people, they're all ambitious, They all want to be doing better for their customers. They want to be doing better for the environment, and they want to grow their businesses. And they all recognize that the traditional way of doing that, if you're a food business, is broken. It doesn't work anymore because the world's changing and consumers are changing.
Yeah, indeed. Consumer behavior is changing completely.
Oh, absolutely, totally. I mean, and people just don't trust big food anymore. You know the big brands that have been greenwashing and been caught for greenwashing. People just don't trust them anymore.
It does. Too much. It's been too much talking and very little doing. That's the reality.
That's absolutely the point. Yes, and unless you can prove you're doing the do, you're kind of you're lumped in with the bad guys.
I do believe the green revolution can only start from the small players, not the big.
Absolutely.
One that too much keen to profit and shareholders. It's different. It's a different way to go. What about the business model? Who are, I presume, restaurants, pubs, and whoever they are, they pay. What about the producer?
So we've worked this all the way through so that everyone who can put a product on the platform or sell a product on the platform pays, because it is to their advantage to do that. How much they pay depends on where they sit in the supply chain. So a very small producer, like the guys making the chili jam on the kitchen table that I met on Saturday, they'll pay £35 a month plus a small fee per transaction, like 2%, and they benefit from having probably the most complete suite of tools that for that kind of money anywhere, including the compliance stuff, including the ability to sell across the platform, and that's both trade and direct to consumer. And their products are discoverable in all sorts of different ways that have never happened before. I mean, we describe it as everybody who's on the platform builds their own spider's web of connections and links with them at the center of their own web. So the guys on Saturday, they just won a couple of awards. So people will be able to find them through the award giver or the awarder, as well as through the market that they were a part of. So I hate to use the word viral in 2022 because it's got such a negative connotation, but it is constructed viral marketing for small brands. At the top end, there are the bigger producers, the really big producers and manufacturers in the restaurants, and they'll pay typically £300 a month for the platform, and again a very small charge per transaction that I don't have any choice over because the banks impose it, and that again is for a complete solution. So one of the things we don't like is we don't like complex business models. We don't like complex add-ons. So basically at the hospitality end, for example, you get the entire system, including a point of sale system, your order and pay from table, your recipe and menu management toolkit, all the compliance kit and equipment, table reservations, home takeaway and delivery ordering. So it's a complete solution, and the whole point is it's just one cost. It's entirely budgetable. There's no nasty surprises that happen through this, because the more we spoke to everyone across all of the food industry, that the more they turn around and said to us, we don't like what was there before. We don't want to pay 15% commission every time we sell a meal to somebody who wants to come in and pick it up. We don't want to pay a big commission on every time we push something else through somewhere. I don't want to pay for somebody to book a table off my own website, and they don't like paying commissions on transactional commissions on point of sale systems. So we just took it all out and said, let's just make it simple. Let's make it a simple flat fee, and because everything is joined together through the food, it means that everybody is essentially helping everybody else to benefit from the platform.
I mean, who's going to use your platform? Mostly all the supply chain, okay, from A to Z.
Yep,
including of course restaurants and I suppose pubs, wherever they are. How much do they pay as well?
How much will they pay?
Yeah.
Anywhere, as I said, anywhere between £35 a month at the lower end, up to £300 a month at the
This is
top end.
also the pubs and restaurants.
Yeah, and it's down to the amount of functionality they require, the amount of data that they're going to use, the amount of management that they're using. A small producer making chili jam on the kitchen table and selling it at 4 farmers markets every month, it's unrealistic for them to be able to afford £300 a month, even although they probably get twice that in benefit. However, a pub that's turning over £1 or £2 million a year and making 10% of that's profit, to turn around and say we'd like you to pay £300 a month for everything, that's not unreasonable. So we've priced very deliberately to come into the market aggressively, but fundamentally we're priced for a big share of the market. So we know that we're the next generation, and systems like us will be the next generation in the way that the food sector works. And in order to capture that market quickly, we've come in with a price point that makes it an easy yes, and an even easier decision to stay on the platform once they start benefiting from it.
There are different business models. Do they pay any setup fee, or they just buy and the service and that's it?
Depends. They can pay a setup fees if they want us to do the work because they're busy. Then we will do the setup work for them. But it is designed to be very, very simple, and something that you can. We have a phrase in the company called Facebook Simple. If something isn't Facebook Simple, it doesn't work. So it's designed so that literally anyone with minimal training or minimal referral to any kind of user manual can do it and use the system to its full potential. Our chief technologist is brilliant. He says, if I have to write a manual, I've failed. And I like that. I like the fact that it is designed to be that simple to use. So if people want us to do it, we will do it. We'll charge them for the privilege of us doing all the work for them if they want to do it themselves. I mean, for a chef to put a dish into the system and add it to their menu shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. So it's not a time-intensive thing to do, and it is designed specifically to be that easy.
I mean, this is on the offer side. What about the demand? Can consumers come and buy?
Oh yeah, but through the app, absolutely they can. So there is a full point of sale system built into the app. So if you're the guys making the chili jam on the kitchen table, and you currently rely on selling through farmers markets, well, you can sell through the app. So your farmers market's open 24/7, and you're keeping the vast majority of the profit for selling your product, which is great. On the other side, if you're sitting running a restaurant, I decide I want to buy and pay through from the table, then I can pay through the app as well. So it is a complete closed loop system. So it's designed so that all of the everything can be done within the system.
So you start in UK, you are UK based.
Yep.
What is going to be the next move?
The USA and the wider EU, the EEA, are going to be our 2 first overseas markets. We've already got very strong connections in both. We have a very close relationship with an insurer in the USA who's got a very strong focus on the hospitality sector, and again sees the value of what we do in risk reduction, because in the States, they don't just complain, they sue. So if we can take the pain of that away with the whole food compliance part of the solution, then that's a huge benefit. And in the EU, I mean, Europe is kind of food central. I mean, between Italy and France and Spain and a few others, if they can't benefit from this, then there's a real problem, because that's where real food comes from in many respects. Those are our two core next markets. After that, the Middle East will probably become an important market for us, because there is a strong food movement growing up in those places, and then there are places like Southern Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, places like that. But broadly speaking, we aim to be everybody's go-to. So you want to find out about food somewhere, you want to go to us. That's what we aim to be.
What's your vision? Where do you see your company? 3, 5 years?
Oh gosh, I think probably the easiest way to describe it is we have a business plan that's ambitious. It's probably about a tenth as ambitious as the company is. We do have a simple mission, and the simple mission is to literally be the thing, the platform that everybody goes to if they want to find out about food, and to be leading the whole connection of people to the story of the food on their plate. So our ambition is to a degree unlimited, and we aim to get there as fast as we can. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think it's probably going to happen a lot faster than we think it will, because the market's ready for it, and there isn't anything else yet out there that does everything we do. Although we have a kind of a matrix of competitors who do bits of what we do, but nobody does the whole thing.
The market is ready. That's
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let me close. Why investors should invest in yourself, your team, and Menu?
Because we've built something that nobody else has built yet at a time when the market's ready for it. We are a mature group of people, so we're not a bunch of wide-eyed, straight out of university people. We're, I've got grey hair. We're a seasoned group of people who've all had very successful careers behind us, and we believe really passionately in this, and we know the timing is right, and now is the time to do this. We are looking at this as a two-stage investment. And the first stage, which we know is going to be the most expensive stage from our perspective in terms of cost of money, is the seed round. The next round after that is probably, I would hope, the last round of investment that we need to get, which will be somewhere between 1.5 and 5 million, and that will be the one that enables us to grow out. Our profitability is high, so we should be able to self-fund thereafter. So why invest in us? Because we are going to make a big we are making a big difference, and we are going to be the biggest player in this space inside 10 years, comfortably.
Tim, thank you so much for coming to BizTalk. It's been a very great pleasure for me.
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much. And I hope to speak to some of your investors soon.
I hope so.
Okay.
So much.
Thanks, Max. Cheers. Bye.